Yamunatira vanachari Jayarada Madhava guṇa-vikarṣaṇaḥ Gopijana Vallabha Girivaratari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira vanachari Jayarada Madhava guṇa-vikarṣaṇaḥ Gopijana Vallabha Girivaratari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Panchatattva, 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 Jaya Panchatattva. Jaya Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Jaya Radha Madhav. Jaya Nrisimhadev, Jaya Nrisimhadev, Nrisimhadev, Jaya Prahlada Makara. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraja Kacharya Ashtatara Srimad Goswami Abhay Charanaravindam Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraja Kacharya Ashtatara Srimad Goswami Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Maharaja Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Om Premstako Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Radha Madhava Gopi Gopinath Radha Kunda Shyama Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai, Vrindavana Madhura Dama Ki Jai, Mayapura Navadipa Dama Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Yamuna Maya Ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Nitai, 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 Gaura Premanande, Hariribo. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. Jai Shri Shri Guru Guranga, Jai Shri Shri Guru Guranga, Jai Shri Shri Guru Guranga, Jai Shila Gurudev, Jai Shila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Nashta prāyaśaḥ bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavad-gītā shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki Om agyanam timirandasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam stapitam yena bhutale Swayam rupa kadamahyam dadati svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sakagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sakagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Svitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Jaya Pataka Swamiti Nimne Namo Acharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayane Gaura Katta Damadaya Nagara Grama Tarine Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Nimne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaura Vani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Pashyatya Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sinkulbevacha Patitanam Pavanepya Vaishnavepya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we continue reading Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 13th chapter, verse 28. And the chapter is entitled Dhritarashtra Quits Home. The verse is on the board. Athodīcīṁ diśaṁ yātu svair ajñāta-gatir bhavān rvāk prāyaśaḥ kālaḥ puṁsāṁ guṇa-vikarṣaṇaḥ athodīcīṁ diśaṁ yātu svair ajñāta-gatir bhavān rvāk prāyaśaḥ kālaḥ puṁsāṁ guṇa-vikarṣaṇaḥ athodīcīṁ diśaṁ yātu svair ajñāta-gatir bhavān rvāk prāyaśaḥ kālaḥ puṁsāṁ guṇa-vikarṣaṇaḥ. Next, please. Athodīcīṁ diśaṁ yātu svair ajñāta-gatir bhavān rvāk prāyaśaḥ kālaḥ puṁsāṁ guṇa-vikarṣaṇaḥ. Ladies, please. Vaishnavis. Athodīcīṁ diśaṁ yātu svair ajñāta-gatir bhavān rvāk prāyaśaḥ kālaḥ puṁsāṁ guṇa-vikarṣaṇaḥ. Athodīcīṁ diśaṁ yātu svair ajñāta-gatir bhavān rvāk prāyaśaḥ kālaḥ puṁsāṁ guṇa-vikarṣaṇaḥ. Thank you. Atha. Therefore, udīcīm, northern side, diśam, direction, yātu, please go away, svair, by your relatives, ajñāta, without knowledge, gatiḥ, movements, bhavān, yourself, itaḥ, after this, arvāk, will usher in, prāyaśaḥ, generally, kālaḥ, time, puṁsāṁ, of men, guṇa, qualities, vikarṣaṇaḥ, diminishing. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada-ki-jai. Please therefore leave for the north immediately, without letting your relatives know, for soon that time will approach, which will diminish the good qualities of men. Purport. One can compensate for a life of frustration by becoming a dhira, or leaving home for good without communicating with relatives. And Vidura advised his elder brother to adopt this way without delay, because very quickly the age of Kali was approaching. A conditioned soul is already degraded by the material association, and still in the Kali-yuga, the good qualities of a man will deteriorate to the lowest standard. He was advised to leave home before Kali-yuga approached, because the atmosphere which was created by Vidura, his valuable instructions on the facts of life would fade away due to the influence of the age which was fast approaching. To become Narottama, or a first-class human being depending completely on the Supreme Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, is not possible for any ordinary man. It's stated in Bhagavad-gītā 7:28 that a person who is completely relieved of all taints of sinful acts can alone depend on the Supreme Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, the Personality of Godhead. Dhritarashtra was advised by Vidura at least to become a Dhira in the beginning, if it were impossible for him to become a sannyasi or a narottama. Persistently endeavoring on the line of self-realization helps a person to rise to the condition of a narottama from the stage of a dhira. The dhira stage is attained after a prolonged practice of the yoga system, but by the grace of Vidura, one can attain the stage immediately simply by willing to adopt the means of the dhira stage, which is a preparatory stage for sannyasa. The sannyasa stage is a preparatory stage of Paramahamsa, or the first great devotee of the Lord. Once more the text. Please therefore, we can repeat together. Please therefore, leave for the north immediately, without letting your relatives know. For soon that time will approach, which will diminish the good qualities of man. So this is the last verse on Vidura's teaching of renunciation in wisdom to Dhritarashtra, in 7 verses. This is the last one. And here he finally calls Dhritarashtra to action. He creates a plan for him, how to act after he heard from him all signs of renunciation. Leave home. This is a plan to action. Adopt the path of Dhira. It is the details. He gives the details, like detailed plan. When to leave? Immediately. Where to leave? For Himalayas, for the north, means Himalayas. And how to live without letting relatives know. And why to live as difficult times approach, which will diminish the good qualities in men. So everything is there, like in a nutshell. And because it's the last verse of this instruction, we can have the brief overview of this science of renunciation, which was given by Vidura to Dhritarashtra. And he starts his instruction very sarcastically. He calls Dhritarashtra dear Rajan. It's in the first verse, it's 20, I believe it's 19th verse. King, dear king. But Dhritarashtra was not king anymore. But why he addressed him like this? Because he was a very deeply rooted upadha, or false identity of Dhritarashtra. He was considered him being a king, right? He's a king, me. That's me. That's understanding of who I am. And then whatever connected to me being a king, that's my kingdom, my subordinates, my relatives, my politics, my family affairs. Everything is there. That's mine. So this deeply rooted upadha, or false identity of Dhritarashtra, was immediately addressed, because this is his most prominent fault. That's most severe attachment of Dhritarashtra, which is there as an impediment for him, for his happiness. Actually, he's not realizing it so far. So Vidura mercifully starts pulverizing this very upadha, cutting it piece by piece with very sharp words. He doesn't hesitate to use this weapon of his words. You think you're still Raja, but where is your kingdom? You think you're a king, but where is your kingdom? You lost your kingdom, so which kind of Raja? Why you should be attached to this position of Raja? You're not Raja anymore. And mere word, Dhritarashtra means one who hold on to kingdom. Dhritarashtra. It was immediately from the birth, he was given the upadha. I am the holder of my kingdom, something which I am attached to. Dhritarashtra. So that was a fate of Dhritarashtra. He was attached to his kingdom, and it was given to him, the upadha, by mere name of him. And actually, we also have this tendency to hold on to some small, probably, luckily, small kingdom of ours, right? That's what we attach to. We have our field of activities to which we attach. So the greatest attachment gives us greatest pain when it's supposed to be cut. Either by the time, if we don't accept the Lord, His will, we don't surrender, or by the same Lord in the form of time. That's what Vidura starts explaining to Dhritarashtra. So, where are your kinsmen? Where are those whom you consider yours? Kala-sarpa, the snake of the time, devour them all. Your father left, your brother left, all your sons died, all your well-wishers died. So, what to hold on to still? But still you're attached. So, what is there left for you to hold on to? Your life. That's the last attachment. Because our life is connected to our body, and attachment to our body is the most strong attachment in life. And because it's most strong, all other attachment sprouts from this kind of attachment to our body. And because this attachment is greatest, therefore the fear to leave this body is the greatest. So the greatest attachment, our body, creates the greatest fear, fear of death. That's how they always together. If we are attached to the body, we will fear to lose them. To lose this body, why? Because it gives me so much pleasure. I am considering my body myself. So I am enjoying through the body. So that's a false conception of happiness in this material world. And he speaks further. So now the Supreme Lord in the form of Kali approaching you. So what would you do? You couldn't surrender to the Lord earlier in your life, but now you have to surrender. You have to. It's unavoidable because time, this is a special form of the Lord to surrender everyone to the Lord. If you don't surrender during our life, so that's the scenario. We have to surrender at the time of death. And what to surrender? Your body. And he start listing all the different disabilities of his body. You were blind from the birth. Now they're deaf. Together with it. So deafness came, and with shortened memory and loose teeth, everything is there. And your liver is debilitated, and your digestion is weak, and you are coughing up mucus. So you have to surrender. If not willingly, then forcibly. Like here, you surrender your body still. You're giving everything. And whatever is connected to the body, the position of the body, your honor. You were so honorable. You were so great king, but now what is your position? You're living like a household dog, taking food from Bhima, who killed all your sons. It's horrible. What can be more shameful for the Kshatriya to live on donations of those who killed all his relatives, whom he considered himself, literally speaking. So why do you live on the charity of those from another side whom you tried to kill. And now, after insulting them so much, insulting their good wife, after all this attempt on their life by poisoning them, by burning them alive, now you're totally dependent on them. You're living on charity of those who you wanted to kill. Why? Because of this fear of death. And we already told that fear of death, the strongest of all the fears, coming from the strongest attachment, and this is the attachment to the body. Why I'm so attached? Because I want to live. And this attachment to my body gives me a strong urge to desire to live in this body by any cost. I want to, because I'm attached to the body. If I'm not attached, it doesn't matter for me where to live, in which body to live, either be here with a mission to liberate all these conditioned souls, or to be promoted to the spiritual world. So it doesn't matter at all, but because Dhritarashtra was so attached to the body, the strongest fear came of this strongest attachment. He was very fearful of the future. He was very fearful of the prospect of this imminent death. And Vidura explained to him in the verse 25 that this is the mentality of Kripana. Who is Kripana? Kripana is a miser. You unwilling to die. You want to remain alive even at the cost of your honor. You want to live, but you don't use your life properly. Therefore, you're a Kripana. You have this wealth, but you don't use it. You want to live. You're unwilling to die, even by the cost of your honor. Still, despite of it, death is approaching you very quickly. So, Kripana want to stay until the last moments. And this is not yours. I don't want you to suffer like this because of this constant ways of raga and dvesha, constant ways of these dualities which you experience. I want you to be liberated. Therefore, adopt the mood, just the opposite to it. If Kripana holds on to the life like this, because of great attachment to the body, then Dhira, someone who is totally opposite to it. And what is the mentality of Dhira? Dhira, as Srila Prabhupada explains this, Vidura explains it, he's undisturbed. Although so many provoking situations in life around him, especially during this Kali-yuga, he's undisturbed. Why? Because he's unattached. He's not attached to this body. Therefore, there is no disturbances, because he doesn't consider himself this body or constantly under being tossed by the waves of these different kinds of duality. Heat, cold, yes, no, white, black, good, bad, and here, what to do, what not to do. So this is tossing him, and he cannot do anything with this duality. So be Dhira, be undisturbed with this. And then finally, he said to him, you have to be detached. And Narada Muni explained the same very point in the 7th canto, 13th chapter, which explain the adhikara for leaving the home. How I know that I have to leave my home? So first adhikara, you have to be dvandava khatasya. That's the first quality. And Dhritarashtra are totally fit to this. He has this adhikara, dvandva khatasya. What is dvandva? Dvandva duality. And khatasya, someone who kills with this duality his spiritual purpose of life. He is so much engrossed in this duality of raga and dvesha, which coming from this false identity, I am my body, that he just kills with this raga. He cannot cope up with these different waves of attachment and aversion. Attachment, material attachment, that's the situation of Dhritarashtra. He cannot give up living his body. He cannot give up the idea to stay at home for his. Therefore, Vidura explains that you are materially attached, so you have to be detached for this. So the first qualification, when he is so much engrossed in this raga and vesha, the material attachment and aversion, that he cannot stay at home, because this raga and vesha, being uncontrolled by him, he cannot control it, like make him a killer of his own good destiny, because he cannot get the happiness which he wants finally. And the second qualification for leaving home, first, yes, this adhikara is Dhritarashtra's. He is Dvandvahatasya. He is a killer of his own good destiny by this dvandva, this duality of attachment and aversion. But the second qualification, he has to understand this. That this environment, home environment, because of this attachment, because of constant impulses, constant urges of different senses, of different feelings, they coming into mind, and the mind is always disturbed, cannot concentrate on something higher. Therefore, you have to leave. You cannot control it. But then you have to understand this. If you live immaturely, prematurely, without understanding that you have to leave, then what will be the result? If you cannot understand you have to leave, someone forcing you to leave, then nothing will be achieved, because you are not convinced. You have to leave when you are convinced that it's yours. You have to leave now because you cannot control your senses. And exactly, it was explained by our acharyas how actually spiritual master deals with these two things in us: our attachment, our lust. Lust manifests through different attachment, and our gross ignorance. Actually, from gross ignorance, our avidya sprouts, this lost identification, through which lust manifests itself. So avidya, or forgetfulness of our eternal relationship with the Lord, our eternal position. That's the Nukasura. We remember, original spiritual master, or Balaram, he kills these two demons. He deals with these two demons, the Nukasura, or gross ignorance. The Nukasura represents this forgetfulness of our eternal relationship, our eternal position, our constitutional position. So first demon which dealt with by the spiritual master is the Nukasura. He has to be killed by the spiritual master. Here, Dhritarashtra is killing his false identity and giving him his real identity. That's the first weapon he uses for this, because spiritual master and Vidura acts here as a spiritual master, as an acharya. So acharya, Lord Balaram, and then all the spiritual master who represents them, they have two weapons to kill these two demons in us. First is Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, that's the plow, right? Balaram has this plow, that's his weapon. So what does this weapon do? How the spiritual master uses this weapon? What is this weapon? It's Mukha Padma Vakya, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya. That's the words of the spiritual master which are coming from the lotus lips. And this is a weapon. And here, Vidura is using this. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada was soft like a rose. And sometimes he was very hard like a thunderbolt. That's how we can use our words. So spiritual master has this choice how to use his words. Now Vidura cutting. What cutting? His material attachment. Together with material attachment, he is cutting his false ego. You are not Raja. You are not that one which you consider yourself. You are not king anymore. So there is no attachment really to this, because he lost everything. He lost kingdom. There is no this object of attachment. He lost all his relatives. There are no sons anymore. So where is the question of attachment? Attachment should be to some object, but now everything gone. So last attachment is there to his body. And it's the greatest, deeply rooted attachment, which which Vidura cuts now into pieces. This is a plow of spiritual master Guru Mukha Padma Vakya. Why it's so effective? Because it's coming from the spiritual energy. It's very important for us to understand how spiritual master works. Mere presence of spiritual master that gives immediately this absorption in the spiritual energy which emanates from him. With his words, they giving this touch to the spiritual internal energy which immediately purifies us from any stage of conditioned life. We can be purified immediately just by words. The first one, by mind of the spiritual master when he wants us to be liberated. Even the thoughts of the spiritual master that purifying. And the third one, by the glance of the spiritual master. It's also from the glance of spiritual master, this spiritual energy emanates. Therefore, it's very powerful just to be in the aura of the spiritual master, in the presence of spiritual master, because these three combined liberate us on the spot. But then it depends on us if we are coming out of this spot, if we are just getting again absorbed in our material condition or not. But the spiritual master does his work. He liberates us, even momentarily in his presence. This is how the spiritual master acts. So the words of the spiritual master gives this immediately touch to the internal energy. Together with it, with internal energy, the three parts of this energy, Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Chit, the energy of knowledge, comes to us. Whatever Guru says, it's so potent when we hear our spiritual master. It's like, it's like opening whole spiritual kingdom in your heart, and we are little bit sensitive to this influence of the spiritual master if we are in tune to his mood, to his consciousness, and we are getting the same. We are getting this, we are entering this door which spiritual master opened to us with his presence, the door to the realm of internal energy. So we are getting the knowledge, Chit, together with the words. That's how the Dhritarashtra got enlightened by the words of Vidura. So this Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, they transformed our consciousness. What's wrong in our consciousness? The mentality, our identity. Now I'm the master of what I see, what is around me. I'm the master, that's my consciousness, that's my attachment, that's my identity. But the function of the words of spiritual master, it just gives the opposite, gives the mentality of a servant, gives a real identity. So Vidura cuts now this false identity. I'm the master, still master in Dhritarashtra. That's how the spiritual master acts. So the plow, how does plow work? It's like turning over the clubs, turning over the particles of the soil, right? Turning over. So it should be turned over it should give this transformation from the identity of the master to the identity of a servant. That's how it's turned over, the consciousness. That's the word of the spiritual. That's the effect of the words, powerful effect of the words of the spiritual master. That's the first weapon of the spiritual master, and Vidura uses here, cutting words, cutting this false identity. And the second is a club, right? Plow and the club. These two weapons of the spiritual master, original one. What is the club? The club is very interesting weapon. That's the actions of spiritual master which bring us the situation in which we more inclined to accept our real identity and give up our false identity. We have to understand that Guru is not like just a physical form. It's a principle how the Mahabhagavata sees the world as Krishna, as the Lord himself. And the part of Krishna he teaches through this world. So Mahabhagavata sees this world as a teacher. We remember this poems nicely explained in the 12th canto. There are so many teachers are here, and we can really teach from each and every manifestation in this material world. We can teach the highest. We can teach how to come, how to develop the qualities which are needed to be with the Lord. So this is a club of the spiritual master as a principle. Krishna, as a principle of Guru, sent to us the circumstances in which our false ego, our false mentality, our false identity crashes. And then the words added to it. Right, these two weapons. We have to understand that whatever is sent to us as our circumstances, it's the best means for us to become closer to Krishna, to come closer to Krishna. And if we accept, if we surrender to this, then we will be inclined to accept this. If we surrender to the Lord in all His manifestations, we will accept whatever comes our way as His will, as His best proposal for our purification, nothing else. It's very important for us to understand, because we are in this egregor of the spiritual energy, because our spiritual master gives us the links to this link to the spiritual energy, and that how Krishna acts through it is giving through this agency of Maya the spurti of the spiritual energy. By this Maya, it will be converted into the situation in which we will get touch more by being more purified with these circumstances. It's very important also to understand. And then Vidura said, okay, there is a Dhira, but best is Narottama. So Dhira, the one who is explained here, undisturbed, as Vidura told, and Srila Prabhupada explains, is undisturbed, but all these waves which are tossing him in this material ocean, although they're so provoking, and we can get angry, we can get lusty, we can get in so deep illusion, but still we have to get out of it. So the Dhira is undisturbed because he doesn't have the attachment, which provoking, which could make him to accept the provocations of the material circumstances. So, but best of men, not Dhira, best of men is Narottama, who prepares him for the old age beforehand, prepare his remedy before old age. And who is this Narottama? It's also explained by Vidura, first-class man. Who is this first-class man? One who leaves home and develops indifference to material attachment, either by himself or through others' inspiration, to depend fully on Lord Hari, who is situated in his heart. That's the main feature of Narottama. He's fully dependent on the Lord in the heart. Meaning, in whatever circumstances I am fully dependent on the Lord, not on my relatives. Now, Dhritarashtra is fully dependent on Bhima, on the food, the remnants of the food which Bhima sent him from his dining table. But this is the position of the dog. By the cost of his honor, he just leaves because he cannot quit his body. He doesn't want, he's so fearful, but this condition is not for for the person who strives for the highest purpose in life. It's not the position of household dog. So you have to become Narottama. That's the message of Vidura. You have to depend fully on Lord Hari. And you are dependent fully not on these relatives, because finally Vidura explained to Maharaja Yudhishthira, who are lamenting when he couldn't find finally Dhritarashtra and Gandhari when they left home, and Yudhishthira couldn't find them. He was so much lamenting, like, I am the cause of their leaving home. I couldn't care for them properly. Therefore they left, being overwhelmed with the death of all their sons. So probably they drowned in the Ganges, they thrown themselves in the Ganges because of me. So he even fainted when he couldn't find Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. That's exactly what happened. And then Vidura explained to him, why you think you protected them? It's not you, because you yourself is a mouse in the trap. He told like this, you're the mouse in the trap. So how mouse in the trap of the eternal time can protect someone? It's not. The Lord is protecting. So please give up this mentality of a protector. You're not final protector. The Lord can protect from you, but if He doesn't give you any more this position, so you just accept this. Because He is a final protector of Dhritarashtra and Gandhari and your good self and all your relatives and whoever want to get happiness in this world. And in this verse, Vidura already give plans of action for Dhritarashtra, because Dhritarashtra couldn't do this, how to lose the attachment. In the 7th canto, 13th chapter, Narada Muni explained how to deal with material attachment, what it could be the remedy. If we are materially attached, then we have to plan with determination how to get rid of this attachment, how to not be involved in this material attachment. See the remedy. It's very subtle, to make plans with determination, understanding that that's impediment, this material attachment. And if we just even not coming to the action itself, just making the plans with determination how to not be engaged in material attachment, then this material attachment going away. It's very subtle. How to deal with material attachment. To plan with determination how to not be involved in this material attachment. It's very important. If you even plan, then this material attachment going. So Vidura make this plan for him how to negate this material attachment, just to leave it, just go far from it, at least separate yourself from your material attachment, from your attachment to your home and maintenance of your relatives. Go far. If you cannot cope up with this material attachment, if you dvandva hatas, you have to go. But the second qualification is not there. We have second adhikara for living home, should be there. You have to be convinced that you need it. But Dhritarashtra is not convinced. He just convinced in opposite. I have to stay home, even by the cost of my honor. I am so dishonored now. I lost everything. But still I am holding on to my life. So he's not convinced that he has to live. But what happening with these cutting words of Vidura, he got for first time these eyes of knowledge. Dhritarashtra was blind from the birth, and then Srila Prabhupada tells us that he also was blind spiritually. But now, the first time in his life, he got his eyes back. And this is not physical eyes, That's the eyes of spiritual knowledge. And he got this from Vidura. He got this internal vision. It was last verse. He made the plan for him to live. But it's not here, the second. It was negative. So how to separate himself from your attachment, from the object of your attachment. But now positive. How to be positively engaged. What will you do when you live? And he gave him jnana for his liberation. It was bhakti mishra jnana, tinged with bhakti. It's also important. Why Vidura, who was a pure devotee, who was capable to give him highest, he gave him only jnana. Why so? But it was tinged with bhakti, otherwise he won't be able to obtain the result of it. So it is said that the Lord, although Vidura was inclined to give full mercy as a pure devotee, he wanted Dhritarashtra to turn into pure devotee, but the Lord didn't allow this. It's interesting. The Lord didn't forgive Dhritarashtra. Why? Because he was very offensive towards the Pandavas. He wanted to kill them, he wanted to poison them, he wanted to burn them alive, and more than that, he insulted Draupadi so severely. So the Lord couldn't forgive him this insult of Draupadi. It said, therefore, because he ultimate giver of the effect of this mercy, he didn't give the full effect of this mercy to Dhritarashtra. Although Vidura was inclined to give his full mercy, somehow the Lord arranged like this through Vidura. He gave him only jnana. But this was also something extraordinary, because by this purity of Vidura, by the Shakti which he got from Maitreya Rishi, actually it's also in dynamic. Although he's a Mahajanas, all the Mahajanas, if we trace them, at one point they didn't manifest his full potency as Mahajanas. Who is Mahajana? Someone who knows Dharma. Not just the occupational Dharma in Sanatana Dharma, in Varnashrama Dharma, but the highest Dharma, the Sanatana Dharma, the love of Godhead. So all of them, they propagate the Sanatana Dharma. That's the definition of Mahajana. Jana, who is Jana? The personality, Maha, great personality. So what's the obligation of great personality? He is here to disseminate this knowledge, the highest knowledge of the highest purpose of love, of life. That's love of Godhead. So Mahajana disseminates Sanatana Dharma. And it's also interesting that who is Vidura? He is Yamaraj, right? So Yamaraj always busy, as it was explained before. Yamaraj was very busy by punishing the wrongdoers, and wrongdoers always the greater in number than pious people. So because of this, he didn't get any chance, actually, any time to do his mission of disseminating the science of the highest goal of life, as it's done by Brahma, it's done by Narada. So Yama, Vayam, in this list of 12 Mahajans, he's named Vayam. Vayam, that's the same Yamaraj. So he didn't get any chance to propagate the highest goal of life. So, and he was lamenting, he wanted it. Therefore, the Lord arranged his situation of being cursed by Manduka Muni. We remember, right? The Yamaraja was cursed by Manduka Muni, and because of this, he was born as Vidura to be able to propagate the highest purpose of life, the love of Godhead, the highest Dharma, Sanatana Dharma. And he became a teacher. He became an acharya of the most important clan, most important dynasty in Bharatavarsha, the Kuru dynasty. So he became an acharya, advisor, spiritual master finally. But before he was also given the different instructions to Dhritarashtra, like to get rid of Duryodhana when he was born, because according to the chart of Duryodhana, he was the cause of the crushing of whole dynasty, was the cause of destruction of whole dynasty. So Vidura said, just give him up. Just reject him. It has to be done. But Dhritarashtra was not inclined at that time. So, and the same was said when Krishna was trying to negotiate the peace with Kuru from the side of Pandavas. He was a peace messenger, but still Duryodhana was creating so many troubles to this peacemaking by Krishna. At that time, Vidura also instructed Dhritarashtra, or advised Dhritarashtra, give him up, reject him, send him into exile, into forest, just get rid of him. And still Dhritarashtra was not inclined. So he was given valuable instruction on many occasions, but still the power of this instruction was not there, because Dhritarashtra was not inclined to accept it. Only when he got this enlightenment from Maitreya Rishi, he was full with the spiritual understanding, spiritual realization of his own self, of the Lord. Then only, being self-realized, he could manifest all his potency as Mahajan. Then only, when he got this inspiration, when he got the signs of the Lord from Maitreya Rishi, then he could preach to Dhritarashtra with such a power that Dhritarashtra accepted his word immediately. Words, like, and also from, there was another side of Dhritarashtra. Of course, he was too attached, but now the attachment was not there anymore, and he was more inclined to accept it. And then, by the mercy of Vidura, see the importance of the association with the sadhu. By this association with Vidura, Dhritarashtra was able to achieve the highest perfection in yoga system in 5 days, in Ashtanga yoga. It's unheard of. To really become a realized yogi and a liberated yogi by the Ashtanga yoga, it takes like hundreds of years, literally speaking, or probably not one life. But by the mercy of Vidura, as said here and in the latest later verses, by the mercy of Vidura, pure devotee, he was able to achieve the perfection of yoga system and merge into the existence of Brahman, effulgence of the Lord, in 5 days. Can you imagine? It's unimaginable. You have to deal with everything. You have to deal with your mind. You have to study how to control your mind with intelligence. And then at one point you have to amalgamate your real self, which you already realized, with the intelligence, and then merge into existence of Brahman. And before this, you have to understand your qualitative identity with the person with which you want to be merged in. So it's whole thing. It's postures, it's meditation, it's spiritual thoughts, it's some regulative principle. Like he was not eating anything, Dhritarashtra, when he left for these 5 days. Was only drinking and taking baths 3 times a day. 5 days, he got perfection. In 5 days, on 5th day, he was born alive by his mystical potency. That was the power of Vidura, power of the great person. So we already told that Krishna didn't forgive Maharaja Dhritarashtra for insulting Draupadi. Mostly, therefore he didn't get full mercy, the effect of full mercy of the pure devotee. He got partial mercy, but still he was able, by this association, to get the highest in this stage of submerging himself into the effulgence, Brahman effulgence. That's the end of the story, and I would like also to end. If you have any questions or comments, yes.
Thank you, Mataji. Mataji, since childhood we learn that we should take care of the old age people, the parents, and another side the scriptures encourages the old age people to leave the home immediately. So how to reconcile both the things, as the children needs to take care of the parents and the parents should go move forward for self-realization? So
if you're not attached, this is the point. We shouldn't be attached to this help. Somehow, if it's possible for us and we can stay at home, then it's perfectly all right. If we are already Narottama, it doesn't matter for Narottama where he's situated, at home or out in the forest, in Himalayas or wherever. He's not attached because he sees his relatives as the agent of the Lord to give him protection. If this insight, internal vision is like this, the frame of mind is like this, then for him, it's okay to stay at home if he sees his relative as a representative of the Lord to maintain him. If it's not there, if he thinks that the relatives maintain him, he doesn't see this connection with the Lord, then something to be addressed in this consciousness. So the best way to live, because it's prescribed, to live for pilgrimage, at least at the advanced age, to live for pilgrimage and see how one can depend on the Lord in this, because it's very important to understand that the Lord whom I should depend on, not my relatives. This is the main thing. First, like, we have to be convinced that, yes, I am so attached to them as my maintainers, like Dhritarashtra was attached even to Bhima, who killed all his sons. By the cost of his honor, he was staying there because he was so afraid of his imminent death. He was so attached to the material body. So Vidura said, leave it. But if there is no this attachment, if we consider, if we develop this vision as that everything, whatever around us that is sent by the Lord, then no problem with this. Then we have to make our relatives Krishna conscious, to be able to maintain them. This is the main thing. We have to become Narottamas, fully depend on the Lord. This dependence and surrender is the same thing. If we depend on the Lord through our relatives, then we surrender everything. We will accept whatever. If the relative beat us, we accept. If the relative don't treat us nicely, we accept. If they give us everything, we also accept. So, like this, we have to make them Krishna conscious. Something else?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, here the Dhira stage is also mentioned. Would you please explain in short what is Dhira stage means?
A Dhira stage, one who is undisturbed with any waves of material circumstances. Also, they can provoke to behave in some not good or appropriate way. He's undisturbed. He's always equipoised. Like he don't react on this tossing of different circumstances as normal materialist, by anger, by illusion, by greed, by everything. He doesn't react like this. So for him, because he is undisturbed, he can go far. That's how it's plain here. He's undisturbed, he can go there and quit his body without these family surroundings. To develop, going far, he's developing unattachment to them and then quitting his body. This is preliminary stage of sannyasa. Dhira means undisturbed. Yeah, undisturbed by the material circumstances, provoking circumstances. Mm-hmm. Okay, the last question, because okay, yeah.
For a woman, if the man, let's say she's married and her Guru Maharaj says one thing and her husband says another thing, what should she, I mean, just as an example, like, it's more important to follow the Guru always, or?
It's a tricky question. Guru's representative is a husband, and supposed to be. So he's supposed to know the heart of the Guru. Like, he's supposed to be in line with the desires of the Guru. Otherwise, if he is not, moreover, if he is fallen, then he should be given up. But this golden middle should be found when he is Krishna consciousness, will be found. Will be found when he is Krishna consciousness. That's where you have to, as a Dharma Patni, you have to rise him. Together, you have to rise to the level of Krishna consciousness, and everything will be all right. But this preliminary stage, when probably full Krishna consciousness is not there, you have to tolerate. And still try to your best to support him in his spiritual, on his spiritual path. When he is Krishna consciousness, no problem. He will always the agent of the will of the spiritual master and Krishna. That's Dharma Patni's obligation, Dharma Patni duty, to support, but with a perspective of developing in Krishna consciousness. It's very important to create the surrounding, to create the atmosphere in which husband can develop his consciousness spiritually. And then, of course, he should be also in tune with the Guru's instruction. He should hear from Guru and also be able to, to balance his behavior or his way of thinking. He should be in tune with Guru. He should hear from Guru. He should accept the mood of Guru. He should accept the consciousness of Guru. Then there will be no problem. Also, you have to connect him with the Guru also for this to happen. That's your part, or the part of Dharma Patni. Thank you so much. Drantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai 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 Gaura Pramanande Hari Bol. Thank you.